House Intelligence Committee member Eric Swalwell joins me now. Congressman, good to see you tonight. Thank you very much for being here. As we mentioned on the way in here, the White House has put you on a list of people who should either not be booked on television, and if they are booked on television, should be pressed. What do you say about that?
You can press me, Martha. That's your job.
We usually do, regardless of what they say. Yeah. So go ahead.
Well, first, I would say the person who the Washington Post has found to have told over 6,000 lies should not be telling anyone who who can and cannot go on TV. Secondly, to the president, I say the only person who has been caught lying about Russia is the president. He said he had no business dealings with Russia. We have now learned that he had dealings going all the way up to and beyond the primary. But what's most important is I actually think your first segment, which is you and your guest expressed outrage, which I think was justified, about the Smollett outcome, where the charges were dismissed, yet we all believe we know what happened because of the evidence that exists in the case.
So you feel the same way today about the Mueller report?
Well, what I mean, Martha, is that I saw evidence, and the country has seen evidence of collusion. Bob Mueller has said that he can't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt.
Right. But one of the big differences between
one
of the big differences between the first segment and this one is that you've had 2 years of investigation, 2,800 subpoenas, 500 lawyers, 500 interviews. You've had 19 lawyers who've been working on this. Some of the top lawyers in the country have worked on it. So there's a very big difference between the Smollett case, which never saw the light of day, and what we have watched over the past couple of years. I want to play this soundbite of you on January 18th, 2019, speaking with Chris Matthews. Watch this.
Do you believe the president right now has been an agent of the Russians?
Yes, I think there's more evidence than he is. Yes, and I think all the arrows point in that direction, and I haven't seen a single piece of evidence that he's not.
So do you still believe that the president is a Russian agent?
I think he acts on Russia's behalf, and he puts Russia's interests ahead too often of America's interests.
Do you think that was too strong a word to call the president of the United States of America a Russian agent? I mean, that is a very strong charge, and you said you had evidence to back that up. Do you stand by that?
Yeah, the evidence is that he seeks to reduce the role of NATO. That's Russia's position. He has pulled us out of Syria. That's Russia's position.
He's also ramped up our defensive, offensive help against Ukraine.
I've got more if you want me to keep going.
Well, so far, okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, and these are all reasons that you believe the president of the United States is a Russian agent. Let me just ask you this. So now you're acts on their behalf, but so do you feel
agency is acting on someone's behalf?
Is that what you really meant when you call the president a Russian agent?
Let's go through the evidence, which is he has pulled back sanctions against Russia. I just feel like in the light of the Mueller finding that maybe it's time for a little bit of retrospective about what you said in the past. I don't think you want me to lay out the evidence. Because I can lay out the evidence.
Mueller laid out 2,800 subpoenas and 2 years of evidence. But if you've got something he didn't find, let's hear it.
Do you like the way that he works with Russia and kicks interpreters out of the room or destroys their notes?
It's not a question of what I like or don't like.
Do you think that's how a president should act?
We're talking about the original charge, which was that the president of the United States, in your words, was a Russian agent, and that he had worked with the Russian government through his campaign to throw an American election. So now there's all these kinds of revisions being made to the argument. And I think that just as a country, all of us, regardless of your politics, need to go, okay, we all waited for this report. Let's look at this report. And I know you want to see it in full, and so do I, and so do I think most people in this country. But isn't it time for a little bit of reflection on everything that's happened?
Donald Trump acts at Russia's behalf. When he meets with Vladimir Putin, he won't tell the country what was said, and he essentially took the notes from the interpreter. That really worries me, and I think, Martha, it should worry you too. But just because he's not been criminally indicted for collusion doesn't mean he has conducted colluding types of behavior with the Russians. And again, going back to your earlier segment, you're outraged because a person wasn't charged with a crime, although you think you know what happened. I'm upset, and I think a lot of people are upset, because we've seen this president have his campaign take meetings with the Russians where dirt was offered. We've seen the president say on a stage, Russia, keep hacking. And we've seen the president constantly lie about his contacts with Russia. I agree with Bob Mueller. I accept his report that the president did not commit criminal collusion. But if the best day of his presidency is that he's not been indicted for criminal collusion, we still have problems. And that's what I think should be addressed by seeing the full Mueller report.
Okay. I mean, obviously, it's very different than the Smollett situation. And the reason that I'm upset is because there was no process at all. That's what should bother everybody when they look at that case. In this case, we have had 2 years of exhaustive process, which I think has exhausted the country. And all I'm saying is that I think it's time to sort of look at it and say that maybe you jumped over your skis a little bit. Would you say that so there's nothing? I don't want to put words in your mouth. Do you think there's anything at this point that you regret having said or that you think might have been going too far?
No, I feel very strongly that no candidate, no president-elect, no president should have conducted themselves the way that Donald Trump has with Russia. He's drawn us so close to a foreign adversary, and I'm going to do everything I can as long as I'm in power to always put the United States first.
So it doesn't bother you that the Clinton campaign paid for a dossier to be put together by someone who had all kinds of ties to intelligence and put together something that turned out to be not necessarily factual? That part of
which part of it hasn't been proved factual?
Well, Christopher Steele himself said it was not a finished work product, and everyone who analyzed it said, "Well, I mean,
which part was not proved factual?"
I mean, are you serious?
Yeah, tell me.
So you think that the dossier? Okay,
which part wasn't
for
proved
one
to be
thing,
factual?
Michael Cohen said he never went to Prague. Do you agree with that?
Which part has been proved not to be factual?
Well, there were basically, a few main tenets of it. One of them was this salacious story about what happened in a hotel. None of that has proved to be factual. The meeting that Cohen supposedly took in Prague was also proved to not have happened. He testified that under oath in front of Congress that he'd never been to Prague.
So now you accept what Michael Cohen said, because if you accept what Michael Cohen said about Prague, then I think you also have to accept that Michael Cohen saw Donald Trump talk to Roger Stone, where Roger Stone said the WikiLeaks attack is happening. So if you're accepting that, then you accept that Donald Trump knew about the Russian interference campaign. And that's the issue here, Martha, is I think you want to have it both ways.
You can be on record as standing by what was found in the dossier. I think that there's, a lot of evidence to refute that.
You can't hold up Michael Cohen to be a saint when he said he didn't go to Prague, but then say he's lying when he said he heard
I'm just talking about what he testified in front of Congress. Look, all I can do is look at the facts of what we have laid out in all of this testimony and take from it what I think any normal person would take from it. So
I think, Martha, you and I would both agree. Let's see the full report as soon as possible. If the president's truly exonerated,
we can absolutely agree on that
immediately.
Okay, we look forward to that. And when we do, I would love to have you back and we'll talk about it.
And keep pressing me. I love
coming on your show. It's always a
spirited
conversation. I appreciate you being here. Thank you very much, Congressman. Good to see you tonight.
My pleasure.